once society reaches this critical point of anger, then the proletariat will rise up. And you know what I mean? Like, people and economic classes don't work like true sciences, because, you know, even with science, whether it's quantum physics, there's a accountability for uncertainty, you know, like the Schrodinger's, no, not Schrodinger, he ripped it off from Einstein, but Heisenberg, Breaking Bad, yes. The original Heisenberg, Werner Heisenberg, discovered the uncertainty principle, which is that if you can pin down an electron's position, you cannot get its velocity, and vice versa. If you can give a true measurement of its velocity, then you cannot get its position with perfect accuracy, because the act of measuring influences the measurement. Humans just shining a light on an atom, you know, affects it. Now, it may seem like I'm rambling, but there's a point to this, which is that even in physics or quantum physics, something that seemingly incorporates elements of uncertainty, right? We can at least box and categorize, like, okay, that's an uncertainty principle. But with human beings, we're not really quantifiable like that, because you can't, like Marxism, though great in theory, it breaks down because you cannot predict human behavior, because we do things that are often irrational. You know what I mean? Science would assume that a creature is motivated upon its own rationality, but we humans, we do things often to fuck ourselves over, you know, because of childhood insecurities, ego, you know, like 100 different weird fucking reasons, you know? So that being said, we'll get into Starbucks. So that's why I think Starbucks is so interesting, because Starbucks represents kind of the highest, I mean, they were really on top of the world. They were one of the top Fortune 500 companies. They were just crushing everything. This year they've been shuttering stores. I know the new CEO says that that's calculated, but they're in crisis. And it seems like their profits are going up, but the cracks are showing. It's kind of like how the German army was fucking crushing everyone, but it's because they were on meth. They were handing out methamphetamines to all the soldiers in little, like, tin with pills. But like, you know, it's like sometimes I take Adderall, not now, not today. I'm actually trying to stop taking Adderall because I find that I can't change tasks. But anyways, eventually, like, I was taking 5 milligrams of Adderall, and then I started taking 10. And 10 felt great, but then 5 didn't do anything anymore. And I think the same thing happened to the Germans, and the same thing happened to Starbucks, is the cracks are showing. You can only... And this is the trouble with a lot of companies that get this big, is maintaining that personal connection. Like right now, the Starbucks CEO thinks that people scribbling your name on a cup and a little message is what was missing, the personal touch. No, it's not what's fucking missing. What's missing is we're tired of paying fucking $7, $8 for drinks, for a fucking coffee. You know what I mean? And did you know the average cost, what it costs Starbucks to make a drink, is like $1.50? You know what I mean? They weren't satisfied with $5 in margins. So the point that I'm getting into, though, is that in this case, the proletariat actually did fuck Starbucks up. So one of the biggest issues with Starbucks was, well, one, after the pandemic, inflationary pricing, the bathroom police, which it wasn't just with black people. I know there was a video where a black person was arrested. It was actually mostly by homeless people, which the beautiful thing about homelessness is that it also afflicts white people. Where all kinds of us go crazy. There have been a couple points in my life where I was like 2 or 3 bad decisions away from being one of those homeless, blabbering people. I was having some mental health issues, and I was living in my van, for a year and a half. So I have a lot of empathy for homeless people, but I'll save that for another episode. So the other thing that happened was Starbucks started incorporating the drive-thrus, so the experience became less personal. And then if you ever know this, I only go to Starbucks like once a month because I don't like spending money, but my wife likes to go every week, every Saturday. And if you go in and get a coffee, they will ignore you for the mobile orders and for the drive-thru. And it's like, I'm a fucking person. I'm right here. It's like when you've ever been in a store and they pick up the phone. They're like, hold on. Yes, thank you for calling Staples. It's like, bitch, I got in my car and drove here. Why does that lazy motherfucker calling into Staples, do you have the ink 124? Why do they get priority? So Starbucks, I know why they did it, because the drive-thru and the mobile orders have like very high scalability. They could sell 1,000 drinks on the app if they wanted. So the other thing that's interesting though, so these were a couple of things. The bathroom was a big thing. Remember when, have you ever tried to pee in a Starbucks? If you live in a city, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're dressed nice, you can pee in a Starbucks anytime, which is unfortunate. But also the bathroom code, it was either on the receipt or and then you get in there. This is a relevant, funny anecdote. I knew this girl. She worked at a Starbucks, and they had a needle dispensary box in the bathroom for people to, shoot, for people who want to get high and then dispose of their needles safely. But somebody didn't put the needle away, so when she pulled the trash can up, the momentum of it swung back, and then it swung this way, and the needle stuck her. And then she had to go to the urgent care to get, checked out. And I told her, I was like, dude, you need to sue. You could get so much money from this. And she's like, no, I don't want to bother them. I like my job. But that was a fun. So a lot of the Starbucks, though, Starbucks came up with this idea called the third place. So it's this concept that you're at home, you go to work, but people aren't going to church anymore, and people aren't going to, some weird club, the Italian club or the Polish club or the Veterans Club. So Starbucks in the 90s and early 2000s created this idea that Starbucks would be your third place between home and work. So they put out all these plush chairs and tables, and you could, read a book there and do your homework, and, it was a great idea. But the nuance of trying to decipher who's there because it's their third place and who's there because it's their only place is tricky, I mean, homeless people, vagrants. When I applied for food stamps years ago, they go, and where is your home address? I'm like, oh, I'm homeless. And she's like, no, you're undomiciled. So that's the kind of bougie way of telling people you're homeless. But the funny thing is, though, is that the homeless people started, especially the locations in New York City and a lot of stores. I mean, I would walk in and see it. There'd be guys eating cereal in the store. Clearly they bought somewhere else, unless Starbucks started selling cereal and I don't know about it. They would just post up for the day. It would look like their little post office. They'd have trash bags full of mail. Like they used to be a UPS or a mail carrier, and they just decided one day to quit and walk off with all the goods. But the guys, some of them would have a shopping cart or the miniature dolly carts. Like I called them like the Mexican family carts. But so like this happened, and then like Starbucks became not a third place, but a place where nobody wanted to hang out. So everything turned into like just go in and get your fucking drink and get out. Like that was the consumer mindset. I certainly didn't want to hang out in Starbucks. It smells like, and Starbucks refuses to pay a janitor. So the store smells because like they wanted the staff to just go around and clean things quickly. But no, these Starbucks need like deep cleans, like power washes. And then they're understaffed. A lot of the Starbucks, they're unionizing now, and they're protesting. I don't know. It's just classic. It really, a lot of the strain came from the homeless, like using the bathroom, using like Starbucks. I'm not kidding. The Starbucks in Union Square, was it Union Square in New York City, where I used to walk by? Astor Place, if you're a local, it looked like a homeless shelter. It was a legit, which is, it's kind of beautiful because Starbucks was such a progressive company, so far to the left, they like to think, but ultimately, the homeless just broke them down. Like, you can Google this. Certain Starbucks locations have shuttered their stores. Shut down. For you, I'm not going to insult my audience. Shuttered the stores because of homeless people. So I just think it's beautiful that, this evil corporation ultimately has been brought down by smelly customers who don't want to buy anything. Also, there's some other stuff that's boring, but I'll just end it there. Go out, do some of your own research, look around, see what's fucking happening. The people at the bottom of the system are eroding the people at the top of the system. If you dig into Starbucks financials, yes, they're reporting profits, but the cracks are showing. Things aren't looking good. All right, that's this episode. Thank you so much, Night School.